I think what happens when you really get older is the question is, do you have the bravery? You have to get past the terror of starting again.
I began to believe that I had fallen into my own romantic comedy.
I love this cast. I just say that. I love this cast. The chemistry with Julianna Margulies and Peter Gallagher, that's your dream if you write a romance and there's the chemistry that they have. They're both absolutely delightful people. I mean, they're so much fun. And they're just, oh, it's beautiful. I was the hugest fan of The Good Wife, just obsessed with it. And I realized she lived near me. And I thought, God, why haven't I ever bumped into her? And that very afternoon, I'm walking my dog. I get to 10th and 5th, and I turn, and my dog sniffs another dog. And I look to see who's walking that dog, and it's Juliana. I think she's absolutely perfect casting, and everyone else thinks so too. So we were all in agreement on that. All the men in the show are named Peter. There's my Peter, Peter Rutter. Then there's Peter Gallagher, who plays Peter Rutter. And then there's Peter Francis James, who plays all the other parts. There's been a very magical collaboration among everyone. Everyone's just, you never know what a collaboration is going to be like. And this has just been wonderful.
What's a Jungian?
Someone who believes that the unconscious can be a source of joy and creativity.
I was writing my book and I just had this feeling, you get that kind of feeling when you're a writer, this could also be a play. I mean, my story has every single piece of drama and unexpectedness and miracles and anything that you could ever want in a great story. And it was amazing that it actually happened.
So the opposite of what my Freudian shrink told me in my 20s. That two people falling in love across a crowded room are simply spotting their perfect neurotic match.
Exactly.
I mean, I think your 30s are a really critical time in your life because you have to correct the mess you made in your 20s. The 20s are a complete disaster, but you can survive your 20s and still have a life. So then you have to use the beginning of your 30s to figure out what went wrong in your 20s. And I remember thinking about how stupid I was about men. I mean, there's a line in the play that I love. People begin as they mean to continue. And I think that was one of the things I had to learn in my 30s about men. If you saw something off, don't ignore that. I think what happens when you really get older is the question is, do you have the bravery? Because having losing someone you love, and when I lost Jerry, it was so terrible. And then instead of thinking, oh, I'm going to have this wonderful, joyous time with Peter, I just kept thinking, suppose I lose him. So you focus on the wrong thing, because you're denying yourself what could be years of joy and excitement and sex and everything else. And so I had to it's in the play, you have to get past the terror of starting again. And then you fall just as gloriously as you ever did. I think that thing that Peter says in the play, that you have to be willing to experience totality in life. And that means you have to accept that there's going to be this joy, and then there's going to be the pain, and there's no escaping it, so you might as well go for it. And I think that really Peter kind of talked me into that, but also I was just totally smitten. So, that was the most powerful thing, was that I was just so taken with him. But I was scared. I was just scared. And also, you've got a life established in so many ways. You know where you live, your friends are, you're not finding stuff. And that actually can be great, because when you're younger, you're thinking, do I want to have children? How am I going to get my career going? How am I going to make enough money? Am I going to have an IRA, whatever and ever? And by the time you're my age, you've either worked that out or you haven't, so there aren't other conflicting ambitions. That means you're really free for the joy. That moment when I'm in the play, where I'm very anxious, and he says, also I give her a little more space, let's spend the day together and tomorrow I'll visit. That's what Peter did. I was like all freaked out on this park bench, and he said, let's spend the day together. And then tomorrow I'll visit my friends in Brooklyn. And I thought, oh, okay. And then of course I was crazy about him because he wasn't pushing on me. He was an expert in sexual harassment. He defended abused women in court. This was a guy that understood, that men can be not respectful of women. And he'd spent his life saving women's lives. So he certainly had, I mean, could it have come better than that? I don't think so. I was very lucky in that was part of the dreamy quality of the whole thing. There's no escaping the feelings. That's what you can't do in life. You can't think, oh, I'm going to cheat this feeling or skip that feeling, or, I think it's just a question of meeting whatever feeling is coming at you. And that means, the sadness as well as when joy is coming at you. Don't dodge that either. You have to go through it. And in a way, what the play tells you is that, yeah, we all are having these experiences of feeling ignored and lonely and lost. And then you know what? There's something else out there too. And there's the other side of the feelings. There's a joy to be had. There's adventure. I mean, I think if there's anything you haven't done in life that you really wanted to do, a trip you ever wanted to take or a thing, I think you have to start thinking about those things. Life is a continual cycle of joy and pain. That's really the truth. Or I should say pain and joy. Not sure. I used to think that there was such a thing as luck, but now I think that every teeny piece of luck is actually a small miracle. And that you should really look at your life. Like if you get to the subway platform and a subway comes right away, that is not luck, that is a miracle. And then you have to look at your life in this bigger way, that there are little miracles all over the place that are happening to you all the time. And in the case of that illness I got, and I ended up on Broadway, give me a break. This out of that, I mean, I can't even believe it. So, there are miracles so big you don't have the nerve to dream them. But, life is not a romantic comedy. And real life came into it, and shortly after that, I got diagnosed with a terrible disease. And, romantic comedies end when people just come together. They don't go further than that. And life is much more complicated than that. And I think the play is much more complex, but just as full of joy.